My name is Emily. Standing in the lawyer's office, I watched as my sister Lisa's face turned from disbelief to anger and finally to fear. The weight of the moment was almost suffocating, and I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Just days ago, my life had been turned upside down. Our parents had passed away in a tragic plane crash, and in the midst of my grief, Lisa had shown her true colors. She had come to me cold and heartless, claiming that everything, the house, the accounts, belonged to her. She told me to find somewhere else to die, that I was useless. To understand how I ended up here, I need to take you back in time. I used to be a successful interior designer in Boston. I had my own small studio, and I was living the life I had always dreamed of. Then, a terrible car accident changed everything. I woke up in the hospital with a broken spine, and the doctors told me I might never walk again. My apartment was no longer accessible, and my business had to be shut down. With no other options, I moved back into my childhood home, where my kind and loving parents welcomed me with open arms. My father, a gentle and hard, working man, built a ramp for me so I could get around the house more easily. My mother, a warm, hearted and nurturing woman, spent hours reading to me and taking care of me. Meanwhile, Lisa, who was 32 at the time, was always too busy with her own life. She was married to Mark, a wealthy but arrogant man, and they had 2 kids, Lily and Tom. They lived a lavish lifestyle, always chasing after the next big thing. Lisa would call once in a blue moon, and when she did, she never asked about my recovery. She would just say, "Oh, you're still there. Put Mom on." For months before our parents' death, I started to regain my ability to walk. First with a walker, then with a cane. I was slowly getting better, but to Lisa, I was still the useless sister. During the Christmas before our parents' passing, Lisa and her family came to visit. Mark wore an expensive suit that probably cost more than my monthly medical bills. Lily and Tom ran wild in the house, breaking things and causing chaos. Lisa, on the other hand, was more concerned with rearranging the furniture and criticizing my mother's decorations. On Christmas morning, when it was time for the family photo, Lisa looked at me and said, "Emily, maybe you should sit this one out. We want a nice photo for the Christmas card." I was standing with a cane, not in a wheelchair anymore, but I didn't argue. I just walked into the kitchen and watched them pose through the window. I didn't know then that my father had seen the whole thing and that it would change everything. Our parents died in a plane crash on a sunny afternoon in May. They were on their way to a friend's anniversary party. I was in the garden, pruning the flowers my mother had planted, when I got the call. My world shattered in an instant. Lisa took charge of the funeral arrangements. She invited all her friends and business contacts, and I felt like a stranger at the service. 3 days after the funeral, she came to me in the living room. Mark was standing behind her like a shadow. "I've spoken to the lawyer," she said. "Everything goes to me. You have 2 weeks to leave." I knew something was off. She didn't mention the lawyer's name, and our parents had always used Mr. Henry Johnson as their estate attorney for over 25 years. That night, I searched through my father's study and found a business card with Mr. Johnson's name on it. On the back, in my father's handwriting, it said, "Call him. He knows everything." I called Mr. Johnson, and he told me that my father had changed the will 6 months ago, right after Christmas. He invited me to his office before the official reading. The day before the will reading, Mrs. Jenkins, our neighbor of 35 years, came to see me. She gave me a diary that my mother had asked her to keep safe. She said the last few pages were about me and Lisa, and that my mother had recorded a video message to be played at the will reading. At the memorial reception, Lisa was giving a speech, talking about how she would protect the family legacy. She didn't even mention me once. When Aunt Grace asked where I would live, Lisa just shrugged and said I was transitioning. Mrs. Jenkins, who had always been like a second mother to me, stood up for me. She told Lisa that I had taken care of our parents in their final years, while Lisa had been absent. Now, in the lawyer's office, Mr. Johnson opened the thick will document. He read that Lisa would receive our parents' investment portfolio, worth about $15 million, but it would be held in a managed trust. She could only withdraw $55,000 per year, and the rest would go to her children when they turned 30. The document also included a letter from our parents, explaining that they wanted to protect the money from Lisa's risky financial decisions. Then, Mr. Johnson turned to the part about the family home, valued at around $4.5 million. We leave our home to our daughter Emily, he read. She has been our comfort and support in our last years. She has earned it. After that, he played the video message from our parents. In the video, my mother said, "Girls, we've always loved you both. But Lisa, we've seen how you treat Emily. Emily, you are our strength. We changed the will because we didn't want you to be left out." After the video ended, Lisa stood up and walked out without a word. Mark followed her. Mr. Johnson then turned to me and said, "Your parents were very proud of you. They knew how much you had done for them." As I left the lawyer's office with the deed to my childhood home and a letter from my mother in my hand, I didn't feel like I had one. I felt a deep sense of grief, but also a new, found sense of self-worth. A month later, I moved into my parents' bedroom. I continued my physical therapy, and most days, I didn't need the cane anymore. The neighborhood had changed. People who had once laughed at Lisa's remarks about me now crossed the street when they saw me. Lisa and Mark had to sell their expensive house to pay off their debts. Their children transferred from private school to public school. 3 weeks after the will reading, Lisa called me. Her voice was flat and tired. She asked if my offer to loan her the money to pay off the bank was still on the table. I told her that it was, but only if she apologized publicly at a family dinner. She didn't answer right away, and then she hung up. 2 months after the will reading, I finally opened my mother's diary. In it, she wrote about how much I had saved them after the accident. She said that I was the one who had brought peace and comfort to their lives. Reading those words, I finally found the closure I needed. For months after the will reading, I received a letter from Lisa. She said that she was trying to understand why she had been so cruel, and that she was sorry, even if she couldn't apologize publicly yet. It wasn't the apology I had hoped for, but it was a start. I've learned that my worth is not defined by what others think of me. I've found my home again, both in the physical house and in myself.